Greetings, QCS build fans, and welcome to a video card. So this is one of the 5700 XT Phantom Gaming AsRock cards that we have in the mining rig, and this one has a problem. So this fan spins, that one not so much. Oh, look at that, it goes backwards. That's great. So this one, evidently the fluid in the bearing has gone bad, and so now it won't free spin, and so it throws errors on the mining algorithm every once in a while because it's trying to run the fans up at full power and it can't keep the memory cool enough. So we need to go through and replace the shroud. To replace the shroud, we basically have to disassemble almost the entire card. So while we're going to do that, we're going to change thermal pads, and we're going to change thermal paste, and I think the only thing I got is some Noctua NHT1, so that'll be fine. So, yep, well, let's get started. Alright, so first things first, we got to take, so we actually have to take the heatsink off, because the shroud is attached to the heatsink. So in 4 spots, it's actually got, there's a screw here, there's 2 screws in the front, and the 2 in the front are not accessible at all. And then the 2 in the back are accessible if you take, so the 2 in the back here, these 2 are accessible if you take the back plate off, but but these 2 screws here are not accessible without taking the shroud, without taking the cooler completely off. So there's actually 2 screws there and right here that you can see this one, and there you can see that one. And so yeah, so yeah, we got to take the whole thing apart, so not a real big deal. All right, so first things first, we're going to disconnect our RGB and our fan headers. So we're going to disconnect these 2 guys right here. At least these are actually pretty easy to get to. They just kind of pop in there kind of tight. There we go. Just gotta get those locks to pop loose there. Alright, there's that one. And then this one is our RGB. Oh, it's not in there super tight, so. And the new shroud actually comes with that. So this is our new shroud, and it actually comes pre-assembled. So we've got 3 fans that work perfectly fine, and then it's all wire tied and screwed together on the back side here, and then we have these 2 connectors here. So yeah, so actually not super difficult to take apart. You could change the fans out individually, but you have to get access to these fan cable connections right here. But you still have to take the whole shroud off to be able to do that. Because the other thing is these screws right here, they are completely decorative. They have absolutely 0 purpose. So, alright, so there's that. Okay, so then to take the heatsink off, alright, so we got to take these 4 screws out, and then we have to take these 4 screws out. Alright, so these are going to be 0s or 1s. These are probably going to be 0s. Yep. So I like to take the back off first, just because of the fact that I don't want to put a bunch of tension on the GPU silicon accidentally. So yeah. Alright, so there's our 4 screws there. Alright. And of course we're using our GN toolkit, so to take these off. And I don't like to remove these all the way. Sounds like these are spring-loaded. So we're just going to Z-style these. Until it's completely off. That one's loose. Nope, that one's loose. And that one's loose. Alright, so then it should be relatively simple. Yeah, it should just basically just kind of pop off. So if I get my fingers underneath here, yep, there it goes. And voila, that's it. There's your card. So looks like we got a 1mm thermal pad going across the rear VRM back here, across the power stages, and then looks like we've got another 1mm thermal pad, and then looks like this is for this control ICs, and then looks like we've got, might be, yeah, it's really squished 2mm or it's 1.5. So if it's 2, it'll be fine, because I got 2 and I got 1mm, so we'll see what works. Okay, so and you can see we got lots of silicone residue everywhere. So alright, oops. Okay, so as you can see, we've got lots of silicone residue on everything over here, so we'll have to clean this up a little bit. Yep. And it looks like we got bearing juice over here too, so we'll have to clean this up a little bit and then get that done. So we'll clean this up and we'll be right back. Alright, so we got our GPU all cleaned up. So now we're going to go ahead and I pulled this thermal pad off here. So we're going to make a thermal pad for this guy, and I think I've got, yeah, I think I've got enough that where I can cut this guy. Yeah, I should be able to cut that guy in half. Okay. Alright. So I made that the right thickness. Ooh, I did. Okay, cool. Perfect. Alright, so then we're just going to lay this guy here. So. There we go. And then, alright, so then we need one. Actually, I'm going to use this last little piece here. I'm going to use it. I'm going to cut it, I think. In a smaller square, like this. So that I can replace this guy. because, you know, thermal pads do wear out. They do go bad, so... There we go. And that's just the cool, this little control IC right there. Okay, now. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and take the paste off our cooler here. That comes off pretty easily. I got newer big ones. I splurged and got the big ones instead of the small ones this time. It's like, well, there's a good possibility I'm gonna end up doing a bunch of these cards, so. Alright, so we need one about yay long. And it needs to be about that wide. Alright. So then, just gently kind of take that off with a flat screwdriver. Like that. When you lay it down, try not to stretch it too much because it will, oh, and then we got one guy right here. Because it will stretch, but when it stretches, it'll get thinner. So we're just going to take a little excess off of here like that. Stick that on there really good. Okay. Yeah, that's definitely way thicker. So, all right. So we're gonna go with 2mm pad over on this side, and hopefully it's not too thick, but it should squish pretty good. So, all right. Yep, looks like it's 2mm. It's just really squished and used. So, all right. Now on this card, you can see on the cooler, we've got markings for how big your thermal pad should be. So that's always kind of handy, because then you don't have to make everything totally exact all the time. So half that size and right to about there. So that'll work. Just like that. Good. Okay. And they do the same thing with that one. Try not to waste too much of this stuff because it's not cheap. I mean, the big squares are about 30-40 bucks depending on where you get it. But you can piece them together, because the thing about it is you're really just trying to sink vertically. You're not sinking horizontally. So okay. Okay, that's how our thermal pad placed. Okay, so I'm going to clean this up real quick. Okay, so before we put this back on, we're going to set the card over here real quick. And dead fly. That's nice. Alright. Shoe fly. That was nice. Oh, where did he come from? We got silicon poisoning. Alright, so okay. So we're gonna go ahead and take our shroud screws out here. Looks like they're a P1. So the 0 is a little sloppy. Looks like, yeah. Looks like these are a P1. On here. Piece of tissue. Okay. And that just comes right off like that. Heat sink's actually pretty clean. I blew this out earlier, so. Okay. Alright, so there's our old one. Okay, and then this is our new one. Make sure we put it in the same orientation. And then, what else we gotta do? Oh, and then this one that comes preloaded with screws, so we'll take the new screws out. And they're the same screws. Now the old cooler, I won't throw the whole thing away. What I'll do is I'll actually keep that, so in case one of the fans goes out, then I've got 2 extra fans. So, of course, that'll probably be a pretty long time before that happens. Okay. And that sits in there just like so. Okay. Put your screws back in. Other than replacing the thermal pads and just being careful when you clean the old card up. There isn't anything super difficult about this. So I mean, I would call this probably, in all reality, I would probably call this card probably a level 2 on the difficulty factor. It's more just about, you know, making sure you cut everything to the right size, so that way you get good coverage on all your components, and then you won't have any hot spots. Don't over tighten these because you are screwing into plastic. It's just got to be snug. It doesn't have to be wrenched down per se. Okay. Alright. So now we're just going to take some NH or NTH1 and we're going to stick just a small little dab on here. It doesn't take a lot, especially on GPU, because it's a pretty small surface area. I wonder if this is dryish. Let's see. Nope, it's alright. Okay. You will put a pretty good sized glob on there, just because you want, when it squishes down, you want to make sure it's got really good coverage. So, because you want to make sure it gets the entire die covered. If it doesn't, you're going to end up with hot spots. Okay, so this, I'm actually going to flip it over, and I'm actually going to set it on here so that way I can see where everything's going when I set this back on here. So let's see if we're lined up here. Should be. There we go. Alright. That's one. That's two. That's three. That's four. Good. And we're lined up over here. Okay, awesome. Alright, so make sure you crank these guys down first. I like to go Z pattern. Because I want it to go down nice and flat as possible as I'm taking it down. And you want to run them down to stop, basically. Stop and then snug. So because they do have, there are springs on them, so it is gonna suck them down. Okay, and then put our 4 back screws in. Oh, yeah, I got my fan connector in here. Not a big deal. Okay, there's that. And we can kind of look down the sides, make sure we're making contact with all of our memory, our ICs, power regulators, all that fun stuff. Huh. Now that's interesting. So this thermal pad right here is actually not making contact. So, is that because our cooler's bent, or was that supposed to be 2mm instead of 1? Looks like that was supposed to be, looks like that was supposed to be 2mm, because I'm looking at this one and it looks like it's not touching either. So yeah, so those controllers evidently are run hot enough that they need cooling, and so now we're not making contact, so those are going to get super hot and they'll possibly burn out. So all right, take it back apart and pop, and yep, we didn't quite have enough thermal paste, so that's okay. All right, so we're going to take these 1mm off. And so this definitely should have been 2. Here we can see we got contact on all of our memory. And this one we need to push in so we minimize that gap. But yeah, it looks like we got good to contact on all of our memory, so alright, good deal. Okay. Get that guy there. And I'm just going to take and I'm going to cut this guy in half. That's why you never waste a chunk of thermal pad if you can help it, because you never know when it's going to come in handy. Okay. 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 All right. Okay. Put our RGB header back in. And then reconnect our fan header. There we go. You got room, but you don't have a ton of room. All at the same time. Okay. Alright, there's that. That's it. Okay. And then we can peel that off. Voila! Just looks good as new. She should run good as new too, if not better. So, cool. Alright. Okay, and that's it. Unfortunately, in the time that I have done this repair and filmed it, and now that I'm actually uploading the video, I've lost the screenshots for all of the thermal data. But I can tell you from memory, everything was about 5 degrees cooler than the original stock, and I hadn't had any issues with it since, and that card is still running amazingly well. Okay, well that's it. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Stay tuned for more videos like this, and more content yet to come. We're small little update here. We're about halfway to monetization, so as soon as we get to monetization, then I will actually be able to put more time and effort into the channel. So keep liking, keep sharing, and keep subscribing, and we'll build this thing up to where we can give you more content on a more regular basis. Thank you for watching, and bye for now.